Well, welcome to the Christian Dad Podcast, your place for encouragement and practical tips on how to be a great dad. I am super excited to have a longtime friend, client, colleague, Dan Odell. Dan is in the Kansas City area. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And he's an outstanding real estate agent. He's got an amazing team. I just love Dan, think the world of Dan. And today I had the pleasure of meeting Dan, I believe in 1999. Is that correct?
Probably, yeah. A long time ago, James. Yes.
A long time ago. And I had the opportunity to work with Dan. So I was thinking about coaching. Who better can talk about coaching than someone who's been in coaching? Goodness gracious me. How many years have you been in coaching, Dan?
Since, 1995? Isn't that right? Actually, we met Brian in 2001. We were coaching since 2001, so it's going to be 25 years this year. Yes.
Got it. So then I was Dan's first coach, poor soul.
We're still talking. That's good.
That's amazing. It's a miracle. God works in mysterious ways. So I have a question for you. So you've been in real estate for a long time and you joined real estate coaching, but then it was multifaceted. We talked about business, we talked about family, we talked about spiritual things. But I'm very curious, what was the catalyst that actually I'm going to sign up for this coaching. I'm going to do this with my wife, and we're going to spend a lot of money to see if we can do things differently. What was the catalyst that kind of brought you to this point, Dan?
Okay. Coaching is, if you do it right, James, and you hire the right resources and you smother it in prayer and you be very thoughtful about who's in your life and who can make a difference. Coaching has never been a cost. It's never been an expense. It's been an investment. It's like, where do I put my stocks and where do I spend my time? What church do I go to and who do I want to meet? And, it's an investment. And so when we got involved with coaching and met you as our first coach, unfortunately, I'm sorry for you, James, we knew that it was God sent and we knew that we were following his lead. It was clear of our direction. And so we've been with it intentionally since 2001. So we're committed. And I just feel that we can impact people more if we consult with people that are in a different place in our life and can talk into us and through us in a different way. And if the buckets of opportunity are weak, like if we're weak in our financial bucket, or if we're weak in our personal bucket, or weak in our health bucket, which is a big one for you, James. I know the health bucket is huge for you in our league. You could talk into us and try to help us fill those buckets when needed. And that's what coaching has done for us. And it continues to be important to us. And because when we're in front of people, helping them in our business, trying to help them fill their buckets. Okay. And there's always a reason why people are calling on us for services. And so maybe we could take something you taught us and help fill our clients' buckets, okay, and become a long-term advocate for them. So that's maybe a trite answer, but it's true. Investment in coaching is not a cost; it's an investment. And yes, ever not in the business, not being coached, ever.
And it's interesting along those lines. When I think of coaching as a time saver. Like you could eventually, I guess, figure this stuff out yourself. I guess, because sometimes you won't. Right. So coaching does show blind spots, but let's assume you could, but it'll cost you a lot of time to do that. But if you make the investment, you can possibly buy time. That's a possibility. But I want to go back to that question, Dan. Was there any particular milestone or event, but oh my goodness, I need to do this thing differently. I need a coach. Was there anything stood out for you? Or
well, no? Yes. So first of all, when you're new, we did this. We've been selling real estate at a high level for 31 years. Okay. And when you're sitting amongst your peers at events and conventions and things, or you're sitting across the table from a buyer or seller, you always wonder, do I know what I'm talking about? Do I actually know what I'm doing? God has put me here and I'm across the table from someone in chaos, usually buying or selling a home. Someone's in chaos in some way, shape or form. Right. So when we traveled around some of the industry leaders and learned from them, we ran into Mr. Buffini over in Arizona. Quite by chance, we were at a convention. So, and his message was one of humbleness and one of care, also one of great competence. And my wife and I looked at each other and said, "Oh, Brian is competent, and his team and his coaches know what they're doing. I'm not sure we do. And we were humble enough to say, let's put our toe in the water and make an investment with Brian, because he's preaching a message that we resonate, that Jesus is Lord. He's preaching a message that you have never arrived. And he's preaching a message that there's counterparts in his organization that can help us fill the buckets and help bridge the gaps, a la James Pellicane. And a 25-year relationship has transpired since that time. That was in 2001 where we met Brian in Arizona, and then we met you. And
now
here we are.
I came alongside Dan to help him predominantly initially. It was at the business circle and the financial circle, but then there was the other circles as well. There was the family, the spiritual, and the personal. So there was 5 circles there. Was there anything kind of surprising for you as you look back, be like, that was like an added blessing? That was an added, like, wow, that was really, really important. Does anything stand out for you along those lines?
A myriad of things. You again, first of all, the dynamic of our little company in Kansas City is I work with my wife. Like you work with your wife. I work with my wife. She's the boss. She's the smart one. And I mean that. I'm not being condescending when I say that. I mean that iron sharpens iron, and my wife is many what's the beams? Many iron beams of strength that holds up houses and buildings. But I think that you think you have expertise in a certain area, then you think about, hey, James, or hey, Dan, what is your weight? What is your commitment to other circles? And what is your commitment to really being the father and husband that God intended you to be? And what is your circle about really listening and developing things that really you need to hear and need to enrich yourself with, other than being a smart, business person that you can communicate well, that your clients resonate? What about the other things that make you full? And I will tell you that when you have a conversation about the 5 buckets, you're naive if you think that every bucket is full and everybody and every part of your life you've arrived. We've been struggling with the health thing for years. It's better than it was, but it's not nearly perfect. And so I just think that a good coach is going to lovingly bring out things that you may want to pay attention to. Whether you choose or not is free will. But someone that loves you, and James has loved me for way too long, he's a truth teller, and coaches are truth tellers. And if you want to hear the truth, invest in a good resource. If you don't want to hear the truth, just stay in your own circle, in your own bubble. And then you can limp along and win some days and lose some days. We win a lot more days than we lose now, because we're more fulfilled in a variety of different things of life. Other than the economic life and the business life, we're fulfilled in others. Grandkids are showing up in 3 hours. My 6 grandkids are coming in 3 hours to spend the weekend with us. We're going to go to the World Cup game. We're going to go spend the time in Kansas City to really learn and see some of the fruits of the city. Yeah. And that's because James Pellicane and others have invested in us many, many years ago. We're in a position to do that. Thank you very much. It's all good.
Yes. You're welcome.
I can walk up a few steps.
Yeah. I remember, it was a long time. I believe I worked with you for about 4 years. And I remember some of our conversations very vividly. I'm very curious. Do you remember any coaching calls vividly? I'm very curious, Dan.
I will today at my age, at 69 years old, sometimes I have a hard time remembering what I had for lunch. Sometimes
Trick question. Yeah.
But I do know that if you're wanting to talk about specifically James Pellicane, James Pellicane through the lenses of a computer looks straight in the eye and says, wow, how are you doing? And then he doesn't stop and said, no, how are you really doing? And then give me an example of how you're doing or not doing. And then let's take that point. Let's go a little bit deeper about what you're telling me. And then when you what my point is there's layers of depth that unless you have some self-confidence and you really know this is a godly conversation, sometimes the conversations can stop. But you have always, even to the last time I met you, I can't remember the last time we saw each other, a few months ago. I can't remember what event it was, but you look me in and I say, how is your walk? Like how are you doing with Jesus? And how are you doing with your health? You look good. I'm still 30 overweight, but I was more than that. And because of you, I'm active every day. Because of you, I'm active every day. I'm moving every day. You don't stop with the patronizing, hey, how are you? And then you take a superficial answer. You go deeper. And you've been that way ever since I've known you. And that can be very, very, very challenging for some people because they don't want to go there. They don't want to go deep. They do not want to go, hey, how's the relationship with Maria? And are you guys spending time together? Do you have your date nights? Are you really recognizing her gifts? Do you really understand what a godly woman she is? And you know her well. I know her well, but you remind me of the beauty and opportunity around us. And you start with the people that are most important, which is Jesus, bride, and your family, and then everything else. And the depth of conversation since day one has always been a little bit tough sometimes because you go there, but a good coach goes there. A good coach goes there. A good friend goes there. Okay. And you and your bride, and I would say the same thing about your bride because I've spent time with her. She's been to Kansas City to speak, and I know her well, and my wife knows her well, and she's just like her husband. She's not afraid to go there. And I think that's a gift that a lot of coaches don't want to do. That's my 2 cents.
Well, thank you there, Dan. I remember one time that really stood out for me. So Dan was jamming in the financial circle, doing great with the business. And then I started, you kind of pick your own poison. You write your own goals. And we write goals in those 5 buckets: spiritual, family, career, financial, and personal. So I decided to dive into the personal and, blood work and exercise and all this kind of stuff that's important, basically benchmarks. And I remember Dan was all gung-ho. He was going to do it. And he exercised. And I don't think he can walk for like 2 or 3 weeks afterwards.
Yeah.
But now you're back on the wagon. I mean, these things happen.
So that was, 20 years ago. So now you're talking about, I go to CrossFit almost every day.
Yes.
And I do old people's CrossFit. And again, I don't want your audience to be bored over this stupid conversation, but moving is a thing. And I move to my own speed, and I can get up and show 20 houses in a day, not 50, 20 houses in a day, and take 20,000 steps and play around a golf and walk 2 or 3 times a week. And that's all because if you don't have a good health circle or personal circle, you don't have any circles. You have no circles. You have no circles because everything revolves around being able to walk up the stairs, right? And go show your wife the ocean, right? Or go walk up 3 flights of stairs to show a house, or down a basement that has 100-year-old steps and is full of mold and full of water. And you have to be able to do those things. And because if you can't perform your job.
Yes. And let me interrupt you there. And in addition to that, if you don't have your health, you can't be the arms and feet of Jesus.
Amen.
You can pray, but you can't really do what God has called you to do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but it's true. And you're the only guy in my life that is constantly, consistently, with love, never let me forget.
Well, that's sweet of you to say.
It's true. It's a truth. It's a truth.
We're going to have a little pushing back on. It does need to be said. You mentioned this earlier. You said that when my wife and I joined coaching, we humbly agreed that we needed it. Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the characteristics? This is a leading question, but I just want to say, what do you think are some of the characteristics of someone who would be a part of coaching? What disposition do they need as they come into a coaching?
Great question. It's a great question. It's a great question. Unfortunately, I'm in the real estate business, and unfortunately, 98% of people in my business fail. They don't make it. They can't make a living at it. It's a second or third income. They're part-time. I've made a career. It's a multi-7-figure career income for me, and it's been provided freedom. Okay. But I'm an exception to the rule. So are you, by the way. You're in the same boat. You have done really well in this business, and you are you're unique. My point is that in order to be successful in coaching, you have to be able to receive information. In my business, in my industry, a lot of people are not able to receive information. They're just not able to listen. They already feel they've arrived, or they're so full of damage. They are such damaged goods that they have such a wall around them that they can't receive information. They can't have someone speak into them in the name of Jesus to help. Hey, have you looked at this area of your life? How is the relationship with your wife? What's the last time you showed up at church? How's your relationship with your pastoral team? How's the relationship with your own family? And if you're not willing to go deep or to receive information, you're not a good candidate to be coached. So if you're a husband and wife and you really feel that you're called by God to be a couple, which I hope you feel that way, you cannot do it alone. I can't do it alone. My wife, who's not here right now, she can't do it alone. And she'd be the first to tell you. If it wasn't for godly people putting themselves and interceding on our behalf, we would suck, okay, as a couple. We would suck as a leader, and we would suck in our walk with Jesus. And that may sound trite, but that's the truth. We surround ourselves with people that know, that can just talk to us. I'm not saying they may know, they can just intercede on our behalf and talk to us. And how are you doing? And of course, in your case, you and Arlene have wisdom, and you have guidance, you have perspective, you have success. You're leading role models. Okay, you're leading role models. You're living it, and you're walking the walk, and you have been. So when you talk into us, it's like, oh my God, James and Arlene, they know what they're doing because they're interceding on our behalf because they've been there and they have knowledge and they're not afraid to go there. But to answer your question, if you're not willing to receive information, if you have a guard up or you already feel you've arrived, which is unfortunately a lot of people in my business, then it's very hard to penetrate that wall. So
yeah, Brian says God can't fill a glass. That's a head that's upside down, right? Humility is really key.
Yeah.
David Jeremiah says, when you move forward on what you know, everything becomes clearer. And when you refuse to move forward on what you know, everything that you do not know paralyzes you. One more time. When you move forward on what you know, everything becomes clearer. When you refuse to act on what you know, everything you do not know paralyzes you. What is the difference do you see between a coach and a shrink?
I don't know a shrink. I've never had to secure the services of a psychologist or psychiatrist. Not that I wouldn't, but I really believe that Christian influences and Christian coaches are just as enabled, just as skilled as any psychiatrist or psychologist. So I wouldn't even have perspective on that. I don't know any real estate.
That's fair. I'll answer as a coach.
Yeah.
As a coach, I'm not interested in really what's going on inside of you per se. I am very interested in that, but I'm more interested in movement because my experience as a coach that as you move, things become clearer and clearer. And when you don't move, everything that you do not know paralyzes you. So I just know as a coach, if I can get some kind of movement, I don't know what that movement is, spiritual, family, career, financial, personal. As long as there's movement, we're going to figure it out together.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Okay. And if I were just to break up my schedule down as even in the last 24 hours, and there's 5 things that are happening in every circle. If I can't get my own clients moving, I fail. Okay. I fail them. Because I could take the last 5 clients that I've worked with, divorce, financial disaster, sickness, cancer, moving, twins, flood, business opportunity, whatever. Okay, downsizing, upsizing, parents sick. I mean, you can just imagine. But in order to receive someone and get them moving toward.
Okay. You mentioned earlier about your wife being coaching. Yes. How important would it be for you to have Maria involved in coaching as opposed to just doing it yourself?
We've been involved in coaching since day one.
Can you
hear me okay?
Something's going on a little bit. I don't know why. I can hear you loud now.
Okay. Yeah. That's weird. I don't know what's going on. My internet signal is good, and I haven't cut you off yet, so that's good. My wife is more committed to it than I am. Okay. She's more committed to this walk than I am. She is not, we either going to be coached or we may not be married. So, I mean, that's really one of the byproducts of this whole process is that she's more committed to this than I am. And that's really what I'm trying to do.
What would you say to the couple that's thinking about, working with me per se, or any particular coach, if they have a choice, because it's more money, it's twice as much for them to do it as an individual or to do it as a couple. What's the benefits of doing it together?
common sense would say that I've never sold a house without a husband and wife in the same room together, and almost 100%, even if they're getting divorced or whatever. But the goal is, if how can you get to know the perspective of the other person if you're not committed to receiving information from the other person? For me to be coached individually is really not fair to my wife, because I tend to take a trajectory different than her. And if for her to be coached independently of me, she takes a different trajectory independent of me. Now, we've had two different coaches before in our walk, but then we always come together. Okay.
Sure.
But I would say that in your capacity, because of who you are and who you're married to, by the way, you become 1 times 1 plus 1 is 11. There's a geometrical blessing by having husband and wife in the same room, hearing from you and your perspective, because where you're coming from may seem very, oh, this is James and Arlene, this is our life. Well, no, you're extraordinary. You're extraordinary in all 5 circles. You have been since the day I've known you.
Yeah,
my point is that there's very few people in the country that have the kind of expertise that you and your wife have. Okay,
you're sweet.
It's true. It's true. So my point is that jump in. If you do this right, and if you really invest in all 5 circles, the cost of coaching is not a cost; it's an investment. It's going to make you more efficient. You're going to. Can I be frank with you? You're going to make more money. You're going to have more opportunity. You're going to think more clearly. You're going to think more as a team. My wife and I think as a team, and we kill it because what she thinks of, I never think of, and what I think of, she doesn't think of. And we do it together with someone supporting us, like a coach. Yeah. The economics is scary good. Okay,
it's awesome. This is the Christian Dad podcast, so we're predominantly talking to dads. Talk to that dad who's flirting with the idea of coaching, and why would they need to be, get this coach in whatever season they can be. I kind of break them up into 2 seasons, actually 3. One would be the elementary school, the high school, and then the empty nest season. So what are your thoughts along those lines?
That's a great question. I do think that, again, your clientele is going to be someone who has a relationship with Jesus or is evolving with a relationship. Number 2, they're a family man. They have the parent, or they have the parents that are still living. They have the kids that are growing, and they have the wife who they want to be the best father and husband ever. My hope is that's your perspective. That's your best client. And again, someone that's open, and someone that has some success, someone that's got either a great job or a good career, someone that sees their potential, and God has opened up economic blessing for them, and so they see that. So all those things are in place. Now, they're not the best. I could be a better dad. I could be in better shape. I could be a better resource to my family, my community. But if the economics are right and they're growing economically, and there's some income to set aside to invest, instead of putting some of that money in the market or in a 401k, take a little bit of that, put that into a coach, because the exponential benefit is going to make you a better man, a better person. You're going to be more able to receive good information. You're going to be a better person. I've seen it happen. I know that, especially when there's Jesus Christ wrapped around the whole umbrella, we're doing it for him. Okay. If I want to be a really good leader for Jesus, and resources like James are around, and you sense opportunity, and your customer senses opportunity, you want to take a little bit of that extra income and invest it in yourself. Very few people make investments in themselves. Okay, they just don't. Percentage of realtors are not in coach. Percentage of business people are not coach. Coaching is evolving. Coaching is just getting started, and very few resources are as well equipped to really guide men as you. You just are.
Talk to me about the time commitment in terms of what do you think would be a reasonable expectation for someone in terms of when they'll start seeing results? We're looking at 3 months, 4 months, 1 month, 1 week. What are we talking about in terms of someone having a realistic expectation in terms of when they can start seeing a return on their investment?
It depends upon the subject matter being discussed. If you're dealing with a addiction, and the good coach has uncovered that and said, I really am dealing with an alcoholic addiction or pornographic addiction or just a relationship addiction, and then it gets brought up and it gets on the table. It's on the table. It's confidential. It's private. It's on the table.
100% confidential. 100%.
And then the growth can happen. Okay. Then you've got a partner who's going to lock hands with you, and then you're going to walk through this together. You could see improvement and results within the first week. Okay.
Okay.
But then if there's more, like I'm 30 pounds overweight and I want to get on this, I want to get on the scale, I want to get my blood work, I want to get in the gym, I want to hire a gym or coach or whatever, physical coach. That could take time. That whole process could take time, right? But then it can be measured. It can be measured. Your economic growth could be measured. Your spiritual growth can be measured. Your addictive growth can be measured, and your health growth can all these 5 circles can be measured. Starting here, this is where I am, and I'm going to tackle this bucket and this bucket first, and then you just measure it from where you started to where I am. And I would say that results, little wins could be happening immediately, and then big wins. I'm still here. I'm still here after 20 years with Brian and with you, and I'm just getting started.
That's beautiful, and I do believe there's an appropriate coaching as one transitions into retirement. I think that's very, very helpful. Along those lines, just to piggyback on what you were saying there, I had one gentleman who wanted me to coach him for 1 month. He's like, let's try it for James for 1 month. And I was like, no. I said, the shortest I have is 3 months, because we're not going to see any growth. We could see some growth. We could. But we're not going to see any growth, substantial growth within 3 months. So that's what I do. It's just, again, and part of that is mindset. Part of that is, it's a very holistic framework, if you will.
Can't do anything in a month. You've got to make a commitment. You got to get both feet in, and you've got to commit. And there's nothing wrong with commitment, because if you see, again, I sell real estate for a living, and someone comes and says, I want to sell my house, and who are you? They don't know me, and whatever. So you have to win them over. You have to win them over. Okay. And they're skeptical. People were skeptical. I got 1, 2, 5 homes come on the market next week. 5 homes, 5 families moving, doing something, changing their life. And they're asking me to list their house next week. Okay. And they're all coming from different points of view. They're freaked out. Okay. But here's a 6-month commitment. You got to sign up for 6 months. I can't do my job in 1 week. Okay. We don't know what the market's going to be. We don't know what interest rate's going to do. We don't know what the war is going to be. We don't know what the market, we don't know if your basement's going to flood. We don't know what. So I need you to commit. Okay. And they have to trust you. They have to completely trust you. And they do, because they're putting tens of thousands of dollars on the line to hire me. And so I understand commitment. I understand that. It's the same thing with coaching. If you really are committed and you're not where you want to be, and you want to go from here to here, whatever that is, in whatever bucket that is, whatever area in your life it is, you've got to make a commitment. But you're good at measuring. And again, these people, I'm assuming, know you. They have a trust in you. They have an opportunity for getting better, and they're humble. I think it's a pretty wise investment. That's what I think.
All right, Dan, I don't want to burden this too long, but any last thoughts? If you could talk to your younger self, what would you say? Any last thoughts for guys? Very curious before we go.
Well, if you're listening to this podcast and still listening after 20 minutes, God love you. Thank you. Okay. If you're ever in Kansas City, come look me up, Dan Odell, Maria Odell. We've been there for decades, and we're very, very familiar with the Midwest. But I will say that if you are seeking, if you're a seeker, listen to this podcast is not an accident. If you're still listening and you have any relationship with James Pellicane and his family and understand his background, and you're not where you want to be spiritually or personally or financially,
or with your family,
or any of those, personally kind of begs all of those, look at making a commitment, okay? And watch how God uses this whole time, the resources in front of you, James specifically and his wife, to make an investment in you. Make an investment in you. How many times have you made an investment in you? That's what James is asking. If you're a man seeking to be deeper with God, commit and think about working with James and his team. He knows what he's doing. I put my name to him. I've known him for a long time. I see him way too much. And I don't even live in California. And he has stayed in touch with me for decades. And I believe in what he's I believe in his message. He's a good man. And that's my suggestion. Jump in.
All righty. Well, if you're interested in jumping in, please see the show notes for additional information. Dan, I love you. Thank you so much for sharing so freely. God bless.
You too. See you.